What happened in practice?
For the Bahrain Grand Prix. That's right, a normal intro, because I need to tell you that I'm running the London Marathon, and you might already know this, but I'm trying to raise as much money as possible for the Great Ormond Street Hospital in London. It's an amazing charity that tries to help kids that have severe illnesses have some kind of normal childhood. Please donate, link at the top of the description. So we're here to recap Friday practice, and well, look, quite interesting actually in the sense of we had a lot of new faces out there. So FP1, of course, is usually an unrepresentative session anyway. But with Bahrain FP1, it's literally like an oven out there. I think nearly 50-degree track temperatures, and they're not the same as what we'll see for qualifying in the race because, of course, the sun will have set and it's much cooler temperatures. So roll out the rookies.
Very true. But do you think it's absolutely crazy to think back on now, even though it's a very long time ago, that they ever raced in those conditions? Because, of course, it feels like Bahrain has always been a night race now because it's been for so long. I remember the famous like Alonso and Schumacher battle they had in Bahrain, and that was about 50-degree heat that they were actually racing in. But now, of course, they don't really they don't race in it, so they just kind of sack off the session completely pretty much by putting in the rookies.
Question from P1 Patreon member Lou Mixion. Who was your rookie of the day? The fastest rookie of the day was Luke Browning, up in 13th in the Williams. I say up. Alex Albon's up in 4th, but he is the fastest rookie, so he's done a pretty decent job. What I can say as well is his reactions were put to the test quite aggressively, trying to not mount Alex Albon's car in the double right-hander before the end of the lap. So good job for Browning for missing that one. I think Albon got a reprimand or something for that, or
the Williams got fined.
Yeah, or they got fined as well. Yeah,
for an accident that didn't happen. Which is that? Should it be a fine? I don't know. I guess you can argue that they should have been made them more aware. The reason is that they kind of looked at the data, the telemetry, the team radio, all that kind of stuff, and the driver said he had no warning that it was going to happen. So it's a mistake on Williams, and they chose to fine them. But can you imagine if, after everything that happened to Williams last year, if their cars had basically smashed into each other during a practice session? That would have been an absolute nightmare. The
fact that they've had back-to-back problems with their team radio and alerting their drivers, they need to figure that out, because Williams quite possibly, in my mind, are the 5th fastest car right now. So they need to sort that out, or at least fighting RB potentially for that spot. They need to be on it in every department now, because this is where perhaps mistakes that we've not seen in the past with Williams that they have been making don't get the same spotlight as when they're running in 9th or 10th and things like that. So they need to tighten that up, don't they?
They certainly do. Back onto the topic of the rookies, yeah. A very, very close moment that thankfully all the rookies kind of got away with without any problems.
I think the actual rookie of the day is Dragovic, because he was within a 10th of Lance Stroll. So you have to.
He's done that a few times.
You have to compare teammate to teammate, really. So Dragovic did a decent job in a car that is certainly struggling, that Aston Martin. Now, before we dive into free practice 2, I think it's also worth mentioning that there was a massive meeting that was held with the FIA and all the big stakeholders and power unit manufacturers, to discuss the future of Formula One. So this is how quickly, we're having the new regs next year, and they're like, right,
and they're already trying to get them
again?
in the bin, yeah.
And I did find it quite funny how after the meeting, they go to the media, they're all asked the same thing. So what was said? How did it go? And it feels like they're reading from a script, because the first bit is, I was incredibly productive, very sort of, I don't know, they've tried to make it seem so nicey. I can just imagine it's an all-out brawl in there where they're like, no, I don't want this, I want that, and no, I want this and I want that. Because how on earth are they all going to come to an agreement? I don't know. But they are discussing sort of 2030 onwards as to what Formula One's going to look like.
And crazy that they're kind of going backwards after they're finally getting, and whether, don't get me wrong, on paper, V10 engines sounds great, and it definitely sounds like the FIA president trying to win a few fans over by kind of suggesting it. But they're just getting loads of manufacturers into the sport, like Audi and Cadillac, based on these new regs, and then kind of turning back on it and going, well, actually, we might do V10s, which is just an absolute ludicrous thing to suggest, really.
Well, yeah, because car manufacturers, they want to have some sort of tie-in to their technology that they're developing and put it into their road cars and use that as their first line of, what did you know? This car's got a 90% same technology as a Formula One car.
Yeah,
all this sort of stuff. They love that. So we'll see. Perhaps we'll all be driving V10 sustainable fuel cars in 2030. Maybe that's the way forward.
Imagine you driving your little hatchback with a V10 in the back, just screaming like you can't hear yourself think because you're driving around to the shops.
Right, let's get into free practice 2 then. It was again a McLaren fastest, but from another McLaren. Oscar Piastri ahead of Lando Norris. And then there was a small business day between them and the rest of the field. George Russell half a second off the fastest time, Oscar Piastri. Question, P1 Patreon member, Old Father Ted. Will McLaren dominance bore fans? Look, Oscar Piastri and Lando Norris are very closely matched right now. So even with the fastest car, it's probably one of the closest driver pairings I can remember in recent times having the fastest car and both of them not having a world championship. That in itself, I think that storyline is going to develop in a way that we're not all ready for. They all get on very nicely, both of them. But how many moments are we going to see between now and the end of the season where these two are so closely matched, they're fighting out on track? Yeah, they might be 10 seconds clear. So that is a kind of scenario in my head that can unfold no matter what. Of course, I want to see other drivers, other teams. Jesus Christ, Ferrari, get involved in the fight. But right now, at least around Bahrain, they look rapid.
This is maybe a bit of a backhanded compliment to McLaren, but they've built the best car. But as we've seen in the last race, they're not necessarily the best team when it comes to strategies and things. They've been prone to mistakes. They were at the end of last year. They should have won the Drivers' Championship last year. They only just won the Constructors. So the fact that they've got a dominant car, if you're a neutral, it's much better for it to be in the hands of McLaren than it is Max Verstappen, because we saw what happened when Max had a dominant car. He won pretty much every single race. And then equally, even further than that, is something you've already mentioned, that just because they've got the best car and they're gonna and say they do completely dominate for the rest of the season, it is like a Max Championship, they do have two number ones. And that is something I think what made it so frustrating for neutrals when Max was winning was he didn't have a competitive teammate. But if we get a titanic battle between Piastri and Norris, I'm not going to be complaining that we kind of don't have a championship battle, because yes, it would be a bit of a shame that it's only one manufacturer, but it will still be epic to watch because they're so close. They've raced wheel to wheel before. It's certainly not going to be a bad thing to watch a Norris and Piastri title fight, and they look immense this weekend.
They certainly do. Next question, Eden Jones 123. Is Fernando that much of a goat that he doesn't need a steering wheel? Now, he had some problems, didn't he, with the steering wheel, where it was turned off, and then because the FIA were investigating it, weren't they, as to what was really going on, because he'd sort of...
He took the wheel off as he was driving, which is just the most... Only Alonso could do, would do that, basically.
That's like something that if you're in your sim rig and you're like, oh, it's not really working right now, just unclip it, clip it back on. I'm not sure it quite works the same when you're in a Formula One car out on track.
It is funny that other drivers probably would have just gone to the pits, and Alonso's just kind of like, nah, go on, why not?
I'll fix it myself.
I'll fix it. I'm fine, I'll do it myself. That's basically what he did.
Next question, P1 Patreon member Katie. Are the Red Bulls struggling, or do you think they will bring it back? It's not been the two practice sessions... Well, it's two actually. Sonoda was in FP1 as well. The two practice sessions that I thought Yuki was going to deliver straight out the blocks. I'm not ringing alarms just yet. We've seen it so many times, right? If the Red Bull isn't working, and even Max can't get a hold of it, that second driver is then in a world of pain where they are all the way down in 18th in free practice 2. Of course, we'll wait for qualifying to see exactly where Yuki stacks up. But it's a very different track. The track's incredibly abrasive. It's never been resurfaced in the 20-odd years that it's been on the Formula One calendar. And it is a completely different set of characteristics to the first three races, where Max was able to thrust that car into some kind of contention. And I'm not surprised to see Red Bull a little bit off.
Yeah, they're definitely struggling behind RB again, which we've seen in practice a few times. Of course, happened in Suzuka and they turned it round. Do you think they'll bring it back? they can bring it back because we've seen it happen literally in Suzuka when they looked on the back foot. Qatar also springs to mind last year when they were behind a Haas in the sprint and then Verstappen ended up winning the race. So they can do it, but I think it's going to be incredibly difficult. I don't think Max is going to be 8/10ths off pole and finishing the race in 7th, but I equally don't think he's going to probably be challenging for the victory this time based on what we've seen from McLaren. But if anyone's going to do it, Max can and will because he's done it before.
Next question. P1 Patreon member Georgina, is Ferrari finally catching up? That is not the question that I would have been asking. Of course, Charles did put in a lap towards the end that put him half a second away. Hamilton a second back in 8th. I keep just sitting there watching Ferrari having negative thoughts. And as well, when Charles comes into the weekend and says, look, I'm optimistic because I feel like I can get the most out of the car, but not so optimistic about the fact my car's not there, you just go, oh, okay. Okay, yeah. Fine. So what are we waiting for? Are we going for the Monaco win again? Because that's fine. I'll take that. That's definitely a tick in the box. Because immediately, we're the 4th round of the season, I'm going, can we just get a couple? Can we sneak a couple?
Get a win. Yeah, and this is the problem. Ferrari went into the season as one of the favourites. I think joint favourite to win the Constructors' Championship, and a lot of people were predicting Leclerc and Hamilton could win the drivers. But already it just feels like they're just not anywhere, and they're not going to be anywhere. And to say, are they finally catching up for being half a second off in 4th? Is not where Ferrari fans would have wanted them to be this early in the season.
No, but look, it could all change tomorrow. It's not going to change tomorrow. It's just not, okay? Ferrari are not going to be top 3. But if they are, then I will be a very happy, smiley boy. We will be live on YouTube and Twitch, as always. And if you haven't watched us along before, please do. It's a lot of fun. Other things to mention, I think Mercedes looked reasonable. Antonelli had a pretty good free practice 2 lap, only a couple of tenths off George. Ollie Behrman once again doing a decent job at Haas, and Ocon struggles maybe just not able to unlock the potential in that car over 1 lap, still seeming that way after Friday. And I love how Hülkenberg ended up 20th in that session, and they were 1-2, I think, because they were the first to do their soft laps. And I thought, this is it. It's the green dustbin.
Sauber are back.
They found it.
And another thing to mention is Doohan again looking quick compared to Gasly. I know it's only practice, but something we mentioned in the previous and kind of his disappointing start to the season, that he has had the pace, and I think if he'd have just finished the races and not had these crashes and just been there, what the pace is compared to Gasly, I think we'd all be saying he's proved a lot of people wrong. So hope he has a better race this time. Okay, that is it. We'll wrap it up there, and as I say, we'll be live on Twitch and YouTube. Please do, if you can spare any money, donate to the Great Ormond Street Hospital charity. There'll be a link in the top of the description where I'm running the London Marathon. I did my longest run a few days ago, 34k. It's 42k, the actual marathon, and I'm now trying to taper, as they call it, and get ready for the last few days of running a little bit before big race day on the 27th of April. So good fun. We'll see you very soon. Tommy, did I do your final thoughts? I can't remember. No, you didn't. My final thoughts are, I won't see you tomorrow because I'm not here, but I will see you on Sunday. Yeah, you just have your day off in the middle of the weekend. It's ridiculous. Okay, see you soon. Lots of love. Bye. Alex Jakes is coming on the pod, though. Bye. Bye.